So I wanted to make a video because I haven't made one in a while of me talking. So, and this is what came through because something triggered it for me. And this isn't totally even my own idea. This is something that I've understood from a woman named Osset. And basically, and I'm also incorporating this with stuff that I've read. So there's two aspects to the divine feminine. There's two aspects to her, but really it's one thing, kind of like masculine, feminine. Well, even within just the feminine and the masculine, there's their own subdivisions, right? So we have this hyper idealized pedestal goddess that everyone is supposed to like fawn over, and that's the goddess archetype of just like the mother, the nurture, the just holy being of love and virtue, and can do no wrong and is not evil and is totally pure. And then there's the other aspect, which is like the Lilith aspect, which is far more menacing, scary, even like, yeah. She's pretty ruthless, like a divine, but she's divine, like she's ruthless but divine in her ferocity. It's like nature, you're not going to say a tornado or I mean, yes, it's a disaster, but it is what it is, and that's just powerful. So whether it's hurricanes, typhoons, fucking earthquakes, shit ain't no joke. But yeah, so I wanted to talk about those two aspects because a lot of times you polarize them, and in a lot of like Disney movies, they're polarized. They're like, oh, the evil wicked witch who's all powerful and all knowing and has all of these secrets and ideas, and then this like innocent, ignorant, like damsel that always needs to be saved kind of thing. She's like super jaded, and she's just like, oh, everything is perfect, and so the real magic, the real alchemy is recognizing that we all have both, and realizing that that's where our power is to know when to dip into that softness, but do not take the softness as weakness, because the moment someone doesn't respect your boundaries or what have you, gotta bust out the collie side. That's it. She totally has her place. Like, her place is letting other people know their place. Yeah. Yeah, because you can be kind and benevolent, and I noticed this happens more with women. It's so interesting. I mean, men are kind of, and this is just from my observation as a woman, men are kind of like, their boundary is their boundary. People don't really try to push it, Like, if a man is like, hey, please don't do that, or just don't do that, like, can you bring my stuff back, or what have you, just be like, okay, heard, seen, totally, will not do that. But if a woman is just like, hey, I need like verbal communication before this, that, and they're like, oh, but we need to have trust here, and oh, but what, you're just being this way, or oh no, like you're totally misconstruing it in a way that like is not what it's meant to be like. And I'm like, didn't ask for your opinion. I'm just communicating a boundary. So that's where the boundary difference between like men and women go, as far as what I've noticed. And like, I can push people's boundaries, women can push people's boundaries, and men have to like, put up their whatever, and vice versa. I'm not saying that this is like you know, it's more so like what I've noticed in my life is like if a man tells me like, oh, yeah, I don't, just make sure you ask before you use it. I'm like, cool. Yep. And then, you know, if I have to do the same thing, I generally have to get a little bit more spicy or like my foot down or something for people to take it seriously or make it not about rejection or something. It's not like boundaries are not rejection. And maybe it's just person to person, you know, because everybody is different. And but I'm not going to push someone's boundaries like that. Like or at least I do my best not to. But I notice for women it's more like there's a lot more question, there's a lot more like, well, why? Oh, you're blocking yourself to love or something. I'm like, dude, I just don't want to fucking do it. Like, I just don't want to do it. If a man told you he didn't want to do something, would you ask why? I mean, maybe to challenge him or whatever, but it's like, I don't think you would be pressed so hard. But I digress. That was like a totally different rant. Sorry about that. Anyway, she's necessary. And she usually comes out during ovulation or pre-period or whatever, you know. Because we, ladies, I don't give a fuck how sacred and pure, whatever you are. Know that your rage is sacred, okay? You are both. And you don't have to be perfect to be whole and sacred. You already are perfect and whole and sacred when you integrate this darker aspect to you. Because if you're only stuck in this like perception of I'm just this like, oh, like I can't, I'm just I'm a good girl, I'm not gonna do anything bad. That's when you're like, it starts to creep in other ways and you're just like, whoa. But yeah, it's not really like it's not really you being in your power, or at least being upfront about it, because people who usually are like, oh no, I would never, are usually the ones that are like really, you know. So some people it's more apparent, some people it's not. That's okay. But I fucks with my feminine badass warrior self, and I fucks with the naive because that's the thing about the pure like just innocent goddess. She's really her fault is naivety. Like, is just thinking the world is gonna be some magical, wonderful place, or that like everything's gonna be handed to her, or just like having this like rose tinted idea of what the world is. But and then the flaw of the, or not the flaw, but the, you know, weakness of the other one is that she's too jaded. My eyes itching right now. She's too cynical. She's too cold, you know. So to bridge those two, to have that like hope for humanity and have it be like a possibility, and to have the wisdom and grounded truth to like put your foot down when, if someone is trying to like fuck shit up, that's the key. And we don't need to make an enemy out of either one of them, you know, because I found myself when I was in my like crone, because there's that, right, there's the, I think it's like the child, the maiden, the crone, something like that. Is that archetype too, where I've been in that crone phase where I'm just like, everything's, I'm all in my wounds and shit, and so I'm like bleeding and everybody. And I really demonized that part of me that was like holy and pure and like just like radiating and receiving, because I was like, I'm not that right now, I'm just gonna blah. But I realized that was all aspects. I was like, wait, I am that too. I don't have to hate on that just because I'm embodying this one other thing right now, because I am both. Does that make sense? And we're changeable beings. Yeah. And then I've also been in that. No, I've never really been fully in the like. No, I can get really idealistic. I could really just be like, yeah, but like, yeah. And then I have people just like, no, you can't, no. And I'm like, oh, okay. I'm just kidding. No. But sometimes you gotta be saucy. And if people think you're a bitch, that sounds like a personal problem. It's not my problem. Because like I said, usually people don't, I don't want to say usually because I'm not trying to affirm that. Sometimes women have to be assertive in order to be heard. And it's just what you have to do sometimes. And it's okay. And you don't need to apologize for it, you know? There are men who, like, don't even think that flipping out is, they're like, what do you mean? I'm not sorry. What are you talking about? And you're just like, you know, own it. Own it. This has been my talk. This is all I want to talk about, I guess. Yeah. Merge them. Let them make love in a cool way, like spiritually. Because then you'll have that wisdom and that, you know, and it'll be all good. And life will be good. And you can balance between the two. And men will be like, oh shit. She's not naive. Oh shit. Oh shit. I can't get what. Oh shit. They may not like it because, you know, it's like easier for them to, you know, mess around with someone who's just in that idealistic phase. And then, you know, if you're too like, they might be like, oh, she's scary. But just let them know you won't be fucked with. That's it. Yeah. This has been my talk.